The red light in room 209. She woke up to screaming, not her own, someone else's, male, deep, raw. It echoed through the thin motel walls like something dying behind drywall. There was no mistaking it. This wasn't a scream of surprise or even pain. It was anguish. A sound pulled from the gut. Her heart jumped before her mind even caught up, sweat already beading at her temples. She blinked into the pitch-dark room, lit only by the blinking red light of the smoke detector. Where the hell was she? The room smelled like mildew, bleach, and something faintly coppery. The buzzing old wall AC let out a low, dying rattle. Her sheets were stuck to her legs, cold and damp, as if she'd been sleeping in fear. Room 211. That's where she was. She remembered now. Just outside a town called Crescent Hollow, a place she hadn't even heard of until the rental car broke. Down one night, she'd told herself. One night, and then back on the road. Now she wished she'd slept in the car. The clock beside the bed read 3:08 a.m. She didn't like that number. Her grandmother used to say nothing good happened between 3 and 4. The hour of thin walls, she used to call it. That's when the dead remember the living. A second scream cracked through the wall, this one shorter, choked off midway. She sat up slowly, tried to breathe normal. She wasn't the kind to panic. Not since what happened to her brother. She'd learned that fear could get you killed. Fear made you freeze, and freezing is what lets the bad things catch up. It's nothing, she whispered. It's just someone drunk, someone fighting in the next room. But then came a thud, 3 of them, heavy, wet, thud, thud, thud. It sounded like something large, or someone, being slammed repeatedly into the floor or wall. She swung her legs out of bed, bare feet hitting the cold floor. Her shoes were near the door, but her instinct told her not to move fast. Don't let it hear you, whatever it was. She padded silently across the room, toward the connecting door that joined her room to room 209, the only other room on the second floor besides hers. There was no sound now, no voices, no thuds, no crying, only the hum of the AC and the eerie silence that followed too much noise. The kind of silence that made you realize the motel was way too empty. The connecting door had a small gap under it, and from that space, a faint red light blinked. Not rapidly, just slow and methodical, like a heartbeat, like a warning. She frowned. There shouldn't be a red light in that direction. The hallway lights were white. There were no neon signs out back. She knelt and pressed her eye near the gap. Nothing. Darkness. Then, just as she was pulling back, a shape passed in front of the door, fast, just a flicker of motion, and then a voice, so close it sounded like it was whispering through the wood. "It's not done bleeding yet." Her throat locked. She stumbled, backward, hand flying to her mouth to stop a scream. Every part of her body was telling her to get out. Now. But something stronger, a colder, more familiar voice in her mind, said, "You've run enough in your life. You look once." Just once. She reached for her phone on the side table. No signal, of course. She stood there, breathing hard, trying to decide if this was worth the risk. Maybe it was just a junkie in the next room. Maybe someone was hallucinating, screaming into the void. It wasn't her problem. She turned toward the door to leave and froze. Someone was standing behind the motel room window curtain. Not moving, just standing, a tall figure, shoulders square, face hidden by the thin floral print cloth. The pale motel curtain swayed slightly with each breath the person took. One hand pressed flat against the glass, and in the other, something long, thin, sharp. Her hand flew to her mouth again. How had they gotten up there? She hadn't heard footsteps, no gravel crunching outside. No car engine. She backed away. Then the connecting door behind her clicked. She turned slowly, every inch of her trembling. The red light was brighter now, steady, pulsing against the edges of the door. Then a second voice. This one younger, almost like a boy's, came from inside the room. She's listening. The doorknob turned. She ran. Her fingers scrambled at the deadbolt on the front door, but it wouldn't turn. She hadn't locked it. She knew she hadn't, but now it was stuck, jammed, like someone had locked it from the outside. Her breath came in shallow gulps. Panic overtook instinct. She turned back toward the bathroom. Maybe the window in there opened wide enough to escape. Maybe the TV turned on. By itself, static, just grey snow. But beneath the static, a low sound hummed. It wasn't random. It was rhythmic, wet, like something breathing through blood. Then the screen flickered, and for just a second she saw it, a close-up of an eye. Bloodshot, human, wide with fear, then black. She backed into the bathroom, flicked on the light, but it just sparked and died. She grabbed the edge of the sink to keep from falling and caught a glimpse of herself in the mirror, except it wasn't just her in the reflection. There was a hand resting on her shoulder. She spun around. No one. The air around her had gone ice, cold. She stepped out of the bathroom, and that's when she saw it. The connecting door to room 209 was open, fully open. The red light was gone now. Just darkness. Thick and warm, like the air had turned into syrup, and on the floor, just inches from the door, was a trail of something dark and glistening, leading from her side of the room into 209. She didn't move. Couldn't. Then the voice came. Again. Soft, right behind her. You heard it now, didn't you? She turned, but there was no one. The TV buzzed, then flicked back on. This time the screen showed her, sitting in the motel bed, asleep, exactly as she had been earlier. But standing over her in the footage was him, the figure from the window. Only now he was inside, watching her sleep, and in his hand, not a knife, but a motel room key. Her key. The screen went black again. Then, from the other side of the open door, something laughed, slow, raspy, like it hadn't laughed in a long, long time. She stepped back. Her legs nearly gave out beneath her. That's when the knock came, from inside the closet. 3 knocks, then a pause, then 3 more, and from the gap under the closet door, something small and wet rolled out, a human tooth covered in blood. She screamed. The red light in room 209, the scream still echoed in her ears. It didn't sound like it had come from her, but it had. She stood in the middle of the motel room, trembling, staring at the bloodied tooth on the floor. The closet door had gone silent now, as if whatever knocked from inside had finished its game. A thick, metallic scent filled the air, fresh, like the inside of a wound. The red light was gone from the connecting door to room 209, but the door itself was still wide open, gaping like a mouth waiting to be fed. She should have run, but something was wrong. Not just with the room, with her. She wasn't frozen in fear. She wasn't screaming anymore. She was listening to the air, to the walls, to the voice in her head that didn't sound like hers anymore. Go in, it whispered. You already crossed the line. It knows you now. Her feet moved without her permission. Slow steps toward the open door. The motel was deathly quiet, not a single car passing outside. No buzz from other TVs, no sounds of plumbing, no humming from vending machines. It was like the rest of the world had gone away. And now, there, was only room 209. As she stepped through the connecting doorway, her body instantly tensed. The air was wrong in here, heavy, thick with humidity and something else, like rotting flowers and damp carpet soaked in old blood. She found herself holding her breath, her eyes adjusted to the dark. Room 209 was identical in layout to hers. Same TV, same window, same ugly comforter on the bed, except in here, the TV was off. The bathroom door was missing, not open, not closed, gone. Just a wall with faded outlines where a door should have been, and across the ceiling, like something painted with trembling hands, were words scrawled in a deep, dried crimson. It doesn't bleed until you remember. She backed up a step. Her heel touched something soft and cold. She looked down. A stuffed animal. A child's toy. A pink rabbit with one glass eye missing and its stomach torn open, stuffing trailing out like entrails. She picked it up without meaning to. That's when the floor groaned beneath her. Something was under the carpet. Something that moved when she moved. Her breathing grew rapid. Her knees threatened to buckle. She took another step. The floor thumped back. Like it was echoing her footfalls with a beat of its own. She dropped the rabbit. Thump. She stepped back. Thump. Then, nothing. Just as she turned to leave, the TV flickered on. No sound, just a grainy black and white video. This time, it showed a little girl, maybe 6 years old, sitting on the floor of room 209, right in the same spot the rabbit had been. She was crying, silently. Behind her stood a tall, skeletal figure in a long black coat, its face blurry, as if the tape refused to show it, but its hands were clear, thin, pale, with too many knuckles. It raised one hand over the girl's head, and the screen cut to static. She ran, tripped through the connecting doorway, fell into her own room. The door to 209 slammed shut behind her. Her heart hammered so loud it hurt, and then, for the first time since she'd woken up, she heard a new sound. Footsteps upstairs. Except there was no upstairs. The motel was only 2 stories, and she was already on the top floor. The footsteps grew louder. Not walking, pacing, back and forth above her ceiling, heavy, determined, like someone waiting to be let out. She grabbed her bag, her keys. She wasn't staying another second. She rushed to the front door, tried the lock again, still jammed. She pounded on it, screamed, kicked it. Nothing. Then she remembered the bathroom window. She bolted in. The light still didn't work. The mirror was fogged even though there was no steam. Written in the condensation were words she hadn't noticed before. Only those who bleed can leave. She didn't stop to think. She climbed onto the toilet, reached the small window and shoved it open. It gave fresh. Cold air swept over her. She crawled halfway out and paused. The parking lot below was empty, every car gone, even hers. But worse. The motel sign was missing. It wasn't turned off. It was gone. Pole and all, as if it had never been there. The road was just dirt now. And beyond the dirt, fog, thick, endless. She started to climb back in, panic taking over. That's when a hand reached up from below and grabbed her ankle. She screamed and kicked, yanking free. The hand retreated fast, like it was never there. She scrambled down, panting, clutching the edge of the sink, and then she saw it, blood on her ankle. A perfect handprint. Not scratched or bruised, just marked like something had left a claim. She stumbled out of the bathroom, and the door to the closet creaked open. The bloody tooth was gone. Inside the closet, nothing, just darkness and the sound of soft breathing. She backed away, then footsteps again, but this time inside the walls. She pressed her ear to the drywall. It sounded like someone crawling slowly, dragging themselves toward the space behind the TV. A knock. 2 knocks. Silence, then a whisper from inside the vent. "You were here before." Her blood froze. "No," she whispered aloud. "I've never been here." Another knock. Then, "You left me here. You left me to bleed." And then the TV turned. On by itself again, the same grainy footage of the girl. But now she was older, not 6, maybe 12. Her face gaunt, her eyes hollow. She sat in the same spot, only this time she wasn't crying. She was staring right into the camera, right at her. "Why didn't you come back?" the girl whispered, loud enough to hear through the static. Her lips moved in sync with the words. There was no mistaking it. "You left me. You forgot." Tears welled up in her eyes, and she didn't know why. She didn't recognize the girl. And yet, something deep in her stomach twisted. She looked around the room. Every detail the same. The Layout? The furniture. And then it hit her. This wasn't her first time here. No, she had been here before, as a child, with her mother and her brother. A flash of memory, so fast it almost made her collapse. A summer night, a thunderstorm, her mother crying, her brother screaming. Blood. She staggered back. The room spun. That's when she noticed the blood trail again, still faint, but now leading from beneath the bed. She knelt, slowly lifted the bedskirt, and there, beneath the bed, was a shoebox. She reached in and pulled it out. Her hands trembled as she opened the lid. Inside, a child's drawing, water-stained and red at the edges. A girl in pink holding hands with a faceless figure, a motel key, number 209, a note, written in a child's handwriting. Don't let him come through the red light, it hurts too much. Her heart shattered. She had been here. This wasn't a haunting. It wasn't just some random cursed motel. This was her memory, twisted, buried, rotten from the inside out. And now, something she left behind was bleeding its way back into her life. She put the drawing down, and when she looked up, her reflection in the TV screen wasn't alone. The man, the figure from the video, now standing directly behind her. No face, no sound, just reaching slowly toward the back of her head. The red light in room 209. Her scream never made it out. She turned. Fast, wild, but there was nothing there, just her alone. The figure in the TV reflection was gone, but her body knew what her eyes didn't. Her back still tingled, cold and heavy, as if something had touched her. She reached behind her neck, fingers trembling. There, at the base of her skull, was a mark. A small, wet indentation. Not a bruise, not a wound, a thumbprint. She stumbled backward and knocked over the shoebox. Its contents spilled across the carpet. The key, the drawing, the child's note, and now something new. She didn't remember putting it there. A photograph, old, water-damaged. The edges curled. It showed a little girl, maybe 8 years, old, standing in front of a run-down motel sign, Shady Pines Motor Inn. Her arm was around a boy about the same age. They were smiling, holding juice boxes, and behind them, almost invisible in the shadows, was a tall, pale man in a long black coat. She flipped the photo over. In faded, childish handwriting were 5 words. If he finds us, run. Her heart dropped. She finally sat down, too weak to stand, too scared to trust her knees. This was real. This happened. Her whole life she'd carried this thing, this darkness, and her mind had wrapped it in fog to protect her. But now, it was unwrapping itself, unfolding, bleeding through the cracks, and it had waited here, in this room, for her to return. She forced herself to think. Why had her family been here? Why this motel? And then, like a cold knife dragged across her spine, a name surfaced. Calvin, her twin brother. She hadn't thought about him in years. Not properly, not with clarity. He died when they were 8. Or, that's what she'd been told, a car accident, rainy night. Her mother's sobs, a coffin too small, but now that memory bent like warped glass. Had she actually seen the accident? Had she seen his body? Had there even been a funeral? The closet door creaked again. This time it didn't stop. It opened all the way. Inside, nothing, still shadows. But the smell of salt water rushed out, and in the silence she heard something faint, a lullaby, not sung, hummed, a soft, female voice, broken and slow. Just a few bars, repeating over and over. The tune was familiar. It was the song her mother used to sing when they were scared during thunderstorms. She stepped forward, as if in a trance. The humming grew louder as she neared the closet. But now, it wasn't coming from inside. It was coming from behind the wall. Something or someone was inside the wall. She pressed her palm against it, and the wall pressed back. A heartbeat pulsed against her hand. Then came a whisper, low and aching. "He locked me in. You said you wouldn't forget me." Her breath caught. Calvin. Silence. Then 3 slow knocks. From inside the wall, she yanked her hand away, heart pounding. Suddenly, the red light flickered again from under the connecting door to room 209. It had returned, brighter now, pulsing, alive. This time, she didn't hesitate. She stepped back into room 209. The air was thicker. The heat clung to her skin like sweat and grief. The TV was already on, new footage. This time, it showed her, older now. As she looked now, sitting on the motel bed, clutching the stuffed pink rabbit. In the footage, she was whispering something to herself, over and over. I didn't mean to forget, I didn't mean to forget, I didn't mean to. The screen cut to black. Then, a message in red text. Lies don't bury the dead. She turned away from the screen, dizzy, sick. A memory slammed into her chest like a hammer. She was 8 years old, trapped in the motel bathroom, her brother screaming through the door, and her mother sobbing, locking him in the closet, saying, over and over, he's not your brother. That thing is not Calvin. She had been told not to open the door, and she hadn't. She obeyed. She ran. She left him. The motel room shuddered, like something massive had moved beneath the floor. The bed slammed against the wall by itself. The lights flickered, and a voice echoed from everywhere at once. You promised you wouldn't forget. Her ears rang, blood dripped from her nose, and then the closet door inside room 209 began to open. But this one wasn't empty. Inside stood a little boy, so pale he almost glowed in the dark. Dark hair, hollow eyes, her brother. He stepped out, slowly, dragging one foot like it was broken. In his hand, he held the same stuffed rabbit. His voice was dry, paper thin. You left me with him. Tears poured down her face. I didn't know. I was a kid. I was scared. You let him. Wear me, Calvin whispered. He made me his skin. She collapsed to her knees. I didn't mean to. I didn't remember. I didn't. He stepped closer, and as he moved, his face rippled, like something beneath the skin wanted out. He fed on me, became me, and you helped. The motel room shook again, and from every vent, every socket, every crack in the wall, red light began to pour in. Not just light, smoke, thick, choking, full of whispers. 1,000 voices screaming at once. Open the door! Open the door! Open the door! Her vision blurred. Her brother dropped the rabbit. Its stitched mouth grinned. The lights burst, the floor cracked, and behind her brother the walls split open into a hallway she had never seen, lined with doors. Endless, all pulsing with red light. And down that hallway, she saw it. The tall man, no face, no feet touching the ground, just drifting, holding something in his hand, a mirror. In its reflection, she saw herself as a child, alone, screaming. Bloody! You made me real, the voice echoed. Her brother turned, his face hollow now, empty sockets, jaw distended, and from his chest a second face began to press through. The man's face, stretching the skin, pushing to the surface. You fed us both. She ran, blind, back into her room, back to the bathroom. The mirror, now cracked in a spiderweb pattern, showed her not her face, but a grave fresh, with her name. She screamed and shattered the glass with her elbow, cutting deep. Blood poured. She didn't care. She needed out. She needed out now. The moment her blood hit the sink, the humming stopped. The floor went still, and a deep guttural sigh came from somewhere far below. Then silence, complete, until a new voice, childlike. Soft, you remembered. She turned. The rabbit sat on the bathroom floor, its mouth no longer stitched into a smile. Just open. Tears welled. Up in her eyes, she sank to her knees. I'm sorry, she whispered. I know, the voice said. I'm still in here. The red light in room 209, the rabbit didn't move, but its head was turned slightly to the side now, as if listening. She stared at it, breathing hard, blood still trickling from her elbow. The room was calm again, but that calm had weight, like standing in the eye of a storm. "I'm still in here," the rabbit had said, or had it? Had she really heard a voice? She didn't know anymore. Every rule of the world she trusted had collapsed the moment she stepped into room 209. She had thought grief was silence, but this was louder. This was echoes of something far older. The bathroom light buzzed overhead, flickering weakly. She looked into the cracked mirror again, and saw not herself, but a little handprint smeared in blood against the glass. It wasn't. Hers too small. She backed away slowly. The handprint began to move, dragging downward across the mirror, as if something on the other side was trying to claw its way out. She bolted out of the bathroom, nearly slipping on the bloodied carpet. Room 208 was still glowing faintly, as if the walls themselves remembered. The hallway outside her room was empty, but something had changed. The carpet was soaking wet, water pooling under her bare feet. She took a few cautious steps, then heard it, giggling, children's giggles, from every room, soft at first, then sharper, higher, like they were playing a game and she was the prize. Room 209's door creaked behind her. She turned around. It was wide open, and inside, someone stood where the bed had been. Not Calvin, the tall man. Only now she could see his face, or what passed for it, a smooth, pale surface. Like candle wax poured over bone, eyes burned through it, not placed in sockets, but glowing from beneath the skin. In his hand was the mirror again, but now it didn't reflect her. It reflected Calvin, 8 years old, trapped in a closet, screaming. "You forgot me," Calvin sobbed in the reflection. "He lives through me now." She felt her legs shaking. The man lifted the mirror toward her, and her ears filled with screams, hundreds of them, overlapping, drowning each other out. They came from the mirror. They came from the carpet. They came from inside her own head. She screamed and ran, not back into her room, not toward the exit, but down the hallway toward room 210. Her foot splashed in water, deeper now, almost ankle-high, and she crashed against the door. It was open. Inside, darkness. But the kind of darkness that swallows light. She stepped in. The door slammed shut behind her, silence. Then, click. A single overhead bulb flickered on. This room was not like the others. There was no bed, no TV, no furniture, just a chair in the center of the room, and strapped to it was herself, her own body, mouth taped, eyes wild, wrists bleeding from trying to escape the ropes. She stumbled backward. No, no, this isn't real. The version of herself in the chair thrashed. Her eyes begged. Then the tall man stepped out of the shadows behind the chair. He placed a hand on her doubled shoulder. "Time to remember," he whispered, and pulled the tape off her other self's mouth. Her double screamed, and it echoed with memories, sounds, flashes, blinding pain. The motel hallway as a child. Her mother's voice screaming at her to run. The closet rattling, blood leaking from the doorframe. Her brother's screams turning inhuman, and her mother yelling, "Don't look at him! Don't see his eyes!" But she had turned. She had looked into Calvin's eyes as the thing inside him took over, and that was the moment the man came through Calvin, through her. "I let him in," she whispered. I let him in." Her other self vanished. The chair was empty. The tall man stepped toward her, not walking, just gliding across the floor, and he spoke in her voice this time. "You forgot what you were made for." She backed against the wall. "I'm not part of this. You were the door. No. You watched him burn. You did nothing." Suddenly the room changed. Flames erupted around her. Soot and ash fell from the ceiling. She was 8 again. She stood outside room 209. The door was open. Smoke poured out. Her mother was gone. Her brother was inside. The fire alarm screamed overhead. But it was drowned by Calvin's cries. "Please don't leave me. Please. I'm still me, I promise." and her voice, a child's voice, answering coldly, "You're not my brother." She stepped backward, back into the adult version of herself, back into the burning room. The tall man smiled, and now she understood. It hadn't just been fear. She hadn't run because she was scared. She had run because something in her believed he deserved it. That Calvin had become something twisted, and that leaving him was safer, better. "I didn't save him," she whispered. "No," the man said, and reached for her chest. She couldn't move. He pressed a single finger between her ribs, and her skin split open like wet paper. No blood, just shadows leaking out, and from those shadows Calvin crawled forth. Not his body, but his memory. His scream, his fear, his last moments. He stood in front of her, small and trembling. And finally, he looked up. "Will you leave me again?" Tears poured down her face. "No," she whispered, "I won't." He reached for her hand. Their fingers touched, and the room imploded. Light, sound gone. Everything blinked out in and then came back. She was standing in room 209 again. Daylight, morning, the TV off. The red light gone. The rabbit still sat on the carpet, but it was now grey, colourless, lifeless. She picked it up, its mouth no longer stitched, and inside its chest something jutted out, a small charred tooth. Her brother's. She remembered. He lost it the night before everything burned. The weight of it hit her, and for the first time she didn't collapse. She stood, steady, whole. Something had ended, but something else had begun. Then her phone buzzed. No caller ID. She hesitated, then answered. No sound at first. Then, "You remembered me." She closed her eyes. "Yeah, Calvin, I did. Then I can go now." The line cut, and for the first time since she entered the motel, the air was clean. Some doors never stay locked. The motel was different in the daylight. It felt smaller, still, like something had exhaled. She sat on the steps outside room 209, Calvin's old stuffed rabbit in her lap. It no longer looked strange or threatening. It just looked forgotten. Stitched ears drooping, fabric worn smooth with time. She hadn't called the police. What would she say? That she'd had a vision? That her dead brother had spoken through a toy? That a man with no face had opened her chest and pulled out a shadow? There was no way to explain what had happened in room 209, but she remembered. And somehow that was all Calvin had wanted. She whispered, "I'm sorry." A gust of wind answered her, soft and dry, stirring the tall weeds that framed the parking lot. Then silence again, but it wasn't menacing silence anymore. It was the kind you find in graveyards, still haunted, but at peace. She went inside and packed up her things. The mirror was gone. The TV was unplugged. The light over the bathroom didn't flicker now. It just stayed off. She looked at herself in the glass and didn't flinch. There were scratches on her neck, a bruise on her arm. But behind her eyes, there was someone new, someone whole. Before she left, she turned one last time toward the room. "Goodbye," she said. And for the first time, she meant it. The drive back took longer than she remembered. Roads stretched. Trees leaned in closer. The motel receded behind her like a memory dissolving in acid. But it didn't follow her. Not this time. She reached her apartment by nightfall, locked the door, took a hot shower, ate toast. Let the quiet wrap around her like a blanket instead of a noose. Later, in bed, she held Calvin's rabbit to her chest and whispered his name. Calvin. No answer. And that was okay. She slept through the night. No dreams, no red light. 2 days passed. Then came the letter. No stamp, no return address, just her name in red ink. She opened it slowly, already expecting the worst. Inside was a single yellowed sheet of lined paper, written in a child's handwriting. "Do you remember the game we used to play? When we pretended the closet was a ship and the carpet was lava? I'm glad you remember me now. I'm free. But not everyone is. There's another room, room 237. Don't open it. Ever. Love, Calvin. She stared at the letter. For a long time. Her breath caught. She had never told anyone about room 237, not even her therapist. But she remembered it. Not from that motel, from another one. Somewhere up north, another fire, another door, a door her mother had begged her never to open. She got up, poured herself a glass of water, sat at the kitchen table, the letter beside her. She didn't sleep. That night, 3 weeks passed. She tried to move on. Therapy helped a little. Journaling more. She even laughed once. Real laughter. Not just air from her nose, but something kept pressing at the edge of her thoughts. Something about that number. Size is 7. She didn't want to investigate it. Didn't want to chase ghosts. But something inside her, the same instinct that had made her return to room 209, kept whispering. And one evening, as the sun dipped low behind the buildings, she opened her laptop and typed, "Motel fire." Room 237. The first result froze her in place. A motel in Rochester, New York, 1997. 2 children went missing. The room they were last seen in. Room 237. The motel had since been condemned. A fire destroyed most of it. Only one part remained standing. One hallway. One room. She closed the laptop. Her heart wouldn't stop pounding. A week later, she stood outside the ruins. The building was half burned, covered in ivy and rusted signs. There were no lights, no sounds, no reason anyone would come here. But she did. She walked the cracked concrete path, every step an echo. The hallway was open, no lock on the door. Inside, she found only ashes and shattered glass. And a door. Room 237, paint peeling. Handle scorched black, the number plate half melted. She approached slowly. A note had been nailed to the center. It read, "You remembered one, but many still wait. Do not wake them." She stared at it, chest tight. Then, movement. From inside, the room. A shadow passed across the gap at the bottom of the door, and a voice whispered, "Help me." It was a child's voice, soft, fragile, exactly like Calvin's. She stepped back. The handle turned on its own, but the door didn't open. It just breathed. Like it was alive, waiting. She whispered, "I'm sorry, I can't." And she ran. Weeks passed, no more letters, no more whispers, but at night sometimes she dreams of locks, of rooms lined up like tombs, and someone knocking, always knocking. Sometimes she wakes with dirt under her fingernails, or finds her bedroom door open, though she locked it before sleep. One time, she found a single tooth on her pillow. Another time, the stuffed rabbit had moved from the shelf to the floor, but she refuses to open doors anymore. She has learned. Some guilt you bury, some grief you face, but some doors never stay locked. The end.